It had been a day of triumph at Capua. Lentulus, returning with victorious eagles, had amused the populace with the sports of the amphitheater to an extent hitherto unknown, even in that luxurious city. The shouts of revelry had died away. The roar of the lion had ceased. The last loiterer had retired from the banquet, and the lights in the palace of the victor were extinguished. The moon, piercing a tissue of fleecy clouds, silvered the dewdrop on the corselet of the Roman sentinel and tipped the dark waters of the Volturnus with wavy, tremulous light. It was a night of holy calm, when the zephyr sways the young spring leaves and whispers among the hollow reeds its dreamy music. No sound was heard save the last sob of some retiring wave telling its story to the smooth pebbles on the beach. And then all was still as the breast when the spirit has departed. In the deep recesses of the amphitheater, a band of gladiators were assembled. Their muscles conflict, the foam upon their lips, the scowl of battle yet lingering on their brows, when Spartacus, rising in the midst of that grim assemblage, thus addressed them. Ye call me chief, and you do well to call him chief, who for 12 long years has met upon the arena every shape of man or beast the broad empire of Rome could furnish, and who never yet lowered his arm. If there be one among you can say, in public fight or private brawl, my actions did belie my tongue, let him stand forth and say it. If there be 3 in all your company dare face me on the bloody sands, let them come on. And yet I was not always thus, a hired butcher, a savage chief of still more savage men. My ancestors came from old Sparta and settled among the vine-clad rocks and citron groves of Ceresole. My early life ran quiet as the brooks by which I sported, and when at noon I gathered the sheep beneath the shade and played upon the shepherd's flute, there was a friend, the son of a neighbor, to join me in the pastime. We led our flocks to the same pasture and partook together our rustic meal. One evening, when the sheep were folded, and we were all seated beneath the myrtle that shaded our cottage, my grandsire, an old man, was telling of Marathon and Leuctra, and how in ancient times a little band of Spartans in a defile of the mountains had withstood a whole army. I did not know then what war was, but my cheeks burned, I know not why, and I clasped the knees of that venerable man until my mother, parting the hair from off my forehead, kissed my throbbing temples and bade me go to rest and think no more of those old tales and savage wars. That very night, the Romans landed on our coast. I saw the breast that had nourished me trampled by the hoof of the war horse, the bleeding body of my father flung amidst the blazing rafters of our dwelling. Today, I killed a man in the arena. And when I broke his helmet clasps, behold, he was my friend. He knew me, smiled faintly, gasped, and died. The same sweet smile upon his lips that I had marked when in adventurous boyhood we scaled the lofty cliff to pluck the first ripe grapes and bear them home in childish triumph. I told the praetor that the dead man had been my friend, generous and brave, and begged that I might bear away the body to burn it on a funeral pile and mourn over its ashes. I, upon my knees, amidst the dust and blood of the arena, I begged that poor boon, while all the assembled maids and matrons, and the holy virgins they call Vestals, and the rabble shouted in derision, deeming it rare sport, forsooth, to see Rome's fiercest gladiator turn pale and tremble at the sight of that piece of bleeding clay. The praetor drew back as if I were pollution, and sternly said, "Let the carrion rot! There are no noblemen but Romans. And so, fellow gladiators, must you, and so must I, die like dogs. Oh, Rome, Rome, thou hast been a tender nurse to me. Aye, thou hast given that poor, gentle, timid shepherd lad, who never knew a harsher tone than a flute note, muscles of iron and a heart of flint, taught him to drive the sword through the plated mail and links of brass and warm it in the marrow of the foe, to gaze into the glaring eyeballs of the fierce Numidian lion, even as a boy upon a laughing girl. And he shall pay thee back until thy yellow Tiber is red as flowing wine, and in its deepest ooze thy lifeblood lies curdled. Ye stand here now, like giants, as ye are. The strength of brass is in your Titan sinews. But tomorrow, some Roman Adonis, breathing sweet perfume from his curly locks, shall with his lily fingers pat your red brawn, and bet his sestresses upon your blood. Hark! Ye hear yon lion roaring in his den? 'Tis 3 days since he tasted flesh, but tomorrow he will break his fast upon yours, and a dainty meal for him you will be. If ye be beasts, then stand here like fat oxen, waiting for the butcher's knife. If ye be men, follow me. Strike down yon guard, gain the mountain passes, and there do bloody work as did your sires at old Thermopylae. Is Sparta dead? Is the old Grecian spirit frozen in your veins, that you do crouch and cower like a belabored hound beneath his master's lash? Oh, comrades, warriors, Thracians, if we must fight, let us fight for ourselves. If we must slaughter, let us slaughter our oppressors. If we must die, let it be under the clear sky, by the bright water, in noble, honorable battle. In the dark one night, I dreamt a dream. I dreamt God took my soul to hell. Hell was a fair place. The water of the lake was blue. I said to God, I like this place. God said, Aye, dost thou? Birds sang. Turf came to the water edge, and trees grew from it. Away off among the trees, I saw beautiful women walking. Their clothes were of many delicate colors and clung to them. They were tall and graceful and had yellow hair. Their robes trailed over the grass. They glided in and out among the trees, and over their heads hung yellow fruit, like large pears of melted gold. I said, It is very fair. I would go up and taste the God said, Wait. And after a while, I noticed a very fair woman pass. She looked this way and that, and drew down a branch, and it seemed she kissed the fruit upon it softly, and went on her way, and her dress made no rustle as she passed over the grass. And when I saw her no more, From among the stems came another woman, fair as she had been, in a delicate tinted robe. And she looked this way and that, and when she saw no one there, she drew down the fruit, and when she had looked over it to find a place, she put her mouth to it softly and went away. And I saw other and other women come, making no noise, and they glided away also over the grass. I said to God, "What are they doing?" God said, "They are poisoning." And I said, "How?" God said, "They touch it with their lips. When they have made a tiny wound in it with their 4 teeth, they set in it that which is under their tongues. They close it with their lip, that no man may see the place, and pass on." I said to God, "Why do they do it?" God said, "That another may not eat." I said to God, "But if they poison all, then none dare eat. What do they gain?" God said, "Nothing." I said, "Are they not afraid they themselves may bite where another has bitten?" God said, "They are afraid. In hell all men fear." He called me to come further, and the water of the lake seemed less blue. And then to the right among the trees were men working. I said to God, "I should like to go and work with them. Hell must be a very fruitful place. The grass is so green." God said, "Nothing grows in the garden they are making." We stood looking. I saw them working among the bushes, digging holes. But in them they set nothing. And when they had covered them with sticks and earth, each went away off and sat behind the bushes watching. And I noticed that as each walked, he set his foot down carefully, looking where he trod. I said to God, "What are they doing?" God said, "Making pitfalls into which their fellows may sink." I said to God, "Why do they do it?" God said, "Because each thinks that when his brother falls, he will rise." I said to God, "How will he rise?" God said, "He will not rise." And I saw their eyes gleam from behind the bushes. I said to God, "Are these men sane?" God said, "They are not sane. There is no sane man in hell." And he told me to come further, and I looked where I trod. Then partly I awoke, but soon I slept again and dreamed. This time I thought I stood in heaven before God's throne, and God asked me what I had come for. I said I had come to arraign my brother, man. God said, "What has he done?" I said, "He has taken my sister, woman, and he has stricken her and wounded her and thrust her out into the streets. She lies there prostrate. His hands are red with blood. I'm here to arraign him, that the kingdom be taken from him, because he is not worthy, and given unto me. My hands are pure." I showed them. God said, "Thy hands are pure. Lift up thy robe." I raised it. My feet were red, blood red, as if I'd trodden in wine. God said, "How is this?" I said, "Dear Lord, the streets on earth are full of mire. If I should walk straight on in them, my outer robe might be bespotted. You see how white it is. Therefore, I pick my way." God said, "On what?" I was silent, and I let my robe fall. I wrapped my mantle about my head. I went out softly. I was afraid the angels would see me. And then once more I stood at the gate of heaven, I and another. We held fast by one another. We were very tired. We looked up at the great gates. The angels opened them, and we went in. The mud was on our garments. We walked across the marble floor and up to the great throne. And then the angels divided us. Her they set upon the top step, but me upon the bottom. For they said, "Last time this woman came here, she left red footmarks on the floor. We had to wash them out with our tears. Let her not go up." But then she, with whom I came, looked back and stretched out her hand to me, and I went and stood beside her. And the angels, they, the shining ones, walked by us to and fro and up and down. I think we should have felt a little lonely there if it had not been for one another. The angels were so bright. God asked me what I had come for, and I drew my sister forward a little that he might see her. God said, "How is it that you are here together today?" I said, "She was upon the ground in the street. They passed over her. I lay down by her, and she put her arms around my neck. And so I lifted her, and we two rose together." God said, "Whom are you now come to accuse before me?" I said, "We are come to accuse no man." And God bent and said, "My children, what is it that ye seek?" And she beside me drew my hand that I should speak for both. And I said, "We have come to ask that thou shouldst speak to man, our brother, and give us a message for him, that he might understand, that he might," God said, "go, take the message down to him." I said, "But what is the message?" God said, "Upon your hearts it is written. Take it down to him." And we turned to go. The angels went with us to the door. They looked at us. One said, "Aye, but their dresses are beautiful." The other said, "I thought it was mire when they came in, but see, it is all golden." But another said, "Shh, it is the light from their faces." And we went down to him. One day, my 11-year-old son went hunting with 6 other Indians. They were hunting squirrels. A squirrel darted up a pine tree, and my son climbed up the tree to scare him out on a limb. Finally, the squirrel ran out where he could be seen. My boy called to the hunters to hold their fire until he could get down out of the tree. One of these Indians in the hunting party had always been jealous of me and my position as chief. He and his son both shot deliberately at my boy. He was filled with buckshot from his knees to his head. One blast was aimed at his groin, and the other hit him squarely in the face. The Indians carried my boy toward our home and found a cool spot along the trail under a pine tree. There, they laid him down and ran for a doctor. A friend came to me in Rock Hill, where I had gone to buy goods, and said, "Sam, run home at once. Your boy has been shot." I thought it was one of my married sons. I ran all the way home and found that it was my little boy, near death. The doctor was there. He'd put the boy to sleep with morphine, so he would not be in so much pain. He said my boy could not live. He was right. The boy died in a few minutes. The man and his son, who had done the shooting, were out in my front yard visiting with members of the crowd that had gathered. They did not appear to be upset at their deed. My heart filled with revenge and hatred. Something seemed to whisper to me, "If you don't take down your gun and kill that man who murdered your son, Sam Blue, you are a coward." Now, I had been a Mormon ever since I was a young lad, and I knew it would not be right to take revenge. I decided to pray to the Lord about it, and I left the house and walked to my secret place out in the timber, where I always have gone to pray alone when I have a special problem. And there I prayed to the Lord to take revenge out of my heart. I soon felt better, and I started back to the house. When I approached the house, I heard something inside me whisper, "Sam Blue, if you don't kill that Indian who shot your boy, you are a coward." I turned around and went back to my place of prayer and prayed again until I felt better. Then on my way back to the house, at the same spot along the path, I heard the voice say again, "Sam Blue, you are a coward." I turned again and went back to pray. This time I told the Lord he must help me, or I would be a killer. I asked him to take revenge out of my heart and keep it out. I felt good when I got up from praying. I went back to the house the third time. And when I reached the house, I went out and shook hands with the Indian who killed my boy. There was not hatred or desire for revenge in my heart. All day, where the sunlight played on the seashore, life sat. All day, the soft wind played with her hair, and the young face looked out across the water. She was waiting. She was waiting. But she could not tell for what. All day, the waves ran up and up on the sand and ran back again, and the pink shells rolled. Life sat waiting. All day, with the sunlight in her eyes, she sat there, till grown weary, she laid her head upon her knee and fell asleep, waiting still. And then a keel grated on the sand, and then a step was on the shore. Life awoke and heard it. A hand was laid upon her, and a great shudder passed through her. She looked up and saw over her the strange, wide eyes of love. And Life now knew for whom she had sat there waiting. And Love drew Life up to him. And of that meeting was born a thing rare and beautiful. Joy, first joy was it called. The sunlight, when it shines upon the merry water, is not so glad. The rosebuds, when they turn back their lips for the sun's first kiss, are not so ruddy. Its tiny pulses beat quick. It was so warm, so soft. It never spoke, but it laughed and played in the sunshine, and Love and Life rejoiced exceedingly. Neither whispered it to the other, but deep in its own heart each said, "It shall be ours forever." And then there came a time. Was it after weeks? Was it after months? Love and Life do not measure time, when the thing was not as it had been. Still it played. Still it laughed. Still it stained its mouth with purple berries. But sometimes the little hands hung weary, and the little eyes looked out heavily across the water. And Love and Life dared not look into each other's eyes, dared not say, "What ails our darling?" Each heart whispered to itself, "It is nothing, it is nothing. Tomorrow it will laugh out clear." But tomorrow and tomorrow came. They journeyed on, and the child played beside them, but heavily, more heavily. One day, Life and Love lay down to sleep, and when they awoke, it was gone. Only near them on the grass sat a little stranger with wide open eyes, very soft and sad. Neither noticed it, but they walked apart weeping bitterly. "Oh, our joy, our lost joy, shall we see you no more forever?" The little soft and sad-eyed stranger slipped a hand into one hand of each and drew them closer, and Life and Love walked on with it between them. And when Life looked down in anguish, she saw her tears reflected in its soft eyes. And when Love, mad with pain, cried out, I'm weary, I can journey no further. The light is all behind, the dark is all before," a little rosy finger pointed where the sunlight lay upon the hillsides. Always its large eyes were sad and thoughtful. Always the little brave mouth was smiling quietly. When on the sharp stones Life cut her feet, he wiped the blood upon his garments and kissed the wounded feet with his little lips. When in the desert Love lay down faint, for love itself grows faint, he ran over the hot sand with his little naked feet, and even there in the desert found water in the holes of the rocks to moisten Love's lips with. He was no burden. He never weighted them. He only helped them forward on their journey. And when they came to the dark ravine where the icicles hang from the rocks, for Love and Life must pass through strange, drear places, there where all is cold and the snow lies thick, he took their freezing hands and held them against his beating little heart and warmed them, and softly he drew them on and on. And when they came beyond into the land of sunshine and flowers, strangely, the great eyes lit up and dimples broke out upon the face. Brightly laughing, it ran over the soft grass, gathered honey from the hollow tree, and brought it them on the palm of its hand, carried them water in the leaves of the lily, and gathered flowers and wreathed them about their heads, softly laughing all the while. He touched them as their joy had touched them. But his fingers clung more tenderly. And so they wandered on, through the dark lands and the light, always with that little brave smiling one between them. Sometimes they remembered that first radiant joy and whispered to themselves, "Oh, could we but find him also." At last they came to where reflection sits, that strange old woman who has always one elbow on her knee and her chin in her hand, who steals light out of the past to shed it on the future. And Life and Love cried out, "Oh, wise one, tell us, when first we met, a lovely, radiant thing belonged to us, gladness without a tear, sunshine without a shade. Oh, how did we sin that we lost it? Where shall we go that we may find it?" And she, the wise old woman, answered, "To have it back, will you give up that which walks beside you now?" And in agony, Love and Life cried, "No! Give up this," said Life. "When the thorns have pierced me, who will suck the poison out? When my head throbs, who will lay his tiny hands upon it and still the beating? In the cold and the dark, who will warm my freezing heart?" And Love cried out, "Better let me die. Without joy I can live. Without this I cannot. Let me rather die, not lose it." And the wise old woman answered, "Oh, fools and blind, what you once had is that which you have now. When love and life first meet, a radiant thing is born without a shade. When the roads begin to roughen, when the shades begin to darken, when the days are hard and the nights cold and long, then it begins to change. Love and Life will not see it, will not know it, till one day they start up suddenly crying, oh God, we have lost it. Where is it?" They do not understand that they could not carry the laughing thing unchanged into the desert and the frost and the snow. They do not know what walks beside them still is the joy grown older, the grave, sweet, tender thing, warm in the coldest snows, brave in the dreariest deserts. Its name is sympathy. It is the perfect love.